Well, viewers, we're opening up with the story from Maharashtra. The Supreme Court once again here coming down heavily on the Maharashtra Speaker here for delaying the disqualification pleas that have been filed by the Uddhav Sena and even Sharad Pawar NCP camp. Now, the bench headed by the Chief Justice of India has said that it's giving a final warning to Speaker Rahul Narvekar to form a timeline really to decide on the pleas. The court has given time till the 30th of October to the Speaker to prepare a realistic timeline this time and warned that if nothing is done this time, the Supreme Court will take the matter in its own hands. Now, the Maharashtra Speaker had been ordered by the Apex Court to inform about a timeline to look into the disqualification plea. And this was, of course, filed by Uddhav Sena against 39 MLAs of the Shinde camp and Sharad Pawar NCP camp against Ajit Pawar and 8 other MLAs.
मैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट के तहे दिल से आभारी हूँ कि जिस तरह से उन्होंने आज बोला है। एक तो मैटर सब जुडिस है, इसलिए इस पे ज्यादा बोलना ठीक नहीं होगा। 30 तारीख को फिर से सुनवाई है, 30 तारीख को हम लोग फिर वापस आएंगे और मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि सत्यमेव जयते, हमें न्याय जरूर मिलेगा।
Let's try and decipher the issue and let's see if there is a solution at hand. We have Mr. Krishna Hegde from the Shiv Sena who's joining us, Swapnil Kothari, senior lawyer, Kishore Tiwari from Shiv Sena from the Uddhav camp also with us. Now, firstly, I would like to ask Mr. Krishna Hegde. We've seen disqualification petitions in the past. We've seen speakers advocate over the same. We've seen it in multiple states. But this is a delay that is now going to be considered inordinate. If the Supreme Court has to now set a deadline, well, the Speaker may be from a party, but once he takes that position, he's supposed to be neutral. Look at what is in the best interest of the legislators, of the proceedings of the House. At least to educate would be important, isn't it, Mr. Hegde?
Deepak ji, let me tell you that this whole process is going on since the last 4 months. And not like, some people in the UBT camp are trying to project that this is happening since the last 1 year or 1.5 years. Secondly, let me tell you that there are, we have 77% of the electorate. We have around 50 MLAs with us. We have 13 MPs with us. And these people have given affidavits and paperwork up to 6,000 pages. The Honorable Speaker had to go through all of them and there should be no injustice to either of the party. However, we respect the decisions, the views and the directions of the Honorable Supreme Court. And the Solicitor General, Advocate Tushar Mehta ji, has clearly said that he will meet the Honorable Speaker during the Dasra holidays and before 30th October, we will give whatever the timeline and the process which is required. So I don't think there is any crackdown from the Supreme Court. I must tell you that as a political worker or as a citizen, we have to understand that there should not be any injustice done to any of the parties. It should not be done to us or it should not be done to anyone else. And like you rightly said, the Speaker is an independent authority and therefore he has to take an independent view of the thing. However, considering our strength, what the Honorable Election Commission also said, they had given us the symbol, they had given us the party name, and they have said that we are officially the Shiv Sena. Similarly, we are extremely hopeful and extremely sure that the Honorable Supreme Court decision also will come to us.
Okay, but I'm sure, the UBT camp differs slightly from what you're saying. Let's take an opinion here from Mr. Tiwari. Mr. Tiwari, do you agree with what Mr. Hegde said?
I have seen Rahul Narvekar's interview. He says even after Supreme Court has asked him to give the decision, take a call on the decision by 30th of October. He says, I have not received any guidelines. In fact, Rahul Narvekar is working like a BJP cadre and he has already degraded the post of the Speaker, and Speaker has been delaying the matter in order to see that Eknath Shinde is survived or a government survive. This is unconstitutional. Government being protected by the Assembly Speaker. Rahul Narvekar should have kept the dignity of the post, but he is working like a BJP cadre. In fact, you have been telling that the Supreme Court has given him guidelines. Earlier to that, Supreme Court has given the direction to the Speaker to take a decision on the so that there should not be any complications in the case, and the Supreme Court is not interested to enter into the powers of the legislative Speaker. So the Speaker should have been there as a non-biased, as a constitutional custodian, but unfortunately Rahul Narvekar has not stand up to the mark, and he is not. It was expected because he has been just working on the instruction of Delhi High Command of BJP. So you cannot expect such type of things. But BJP wants to have any conflict with the Supreme Court. That is unfortunate. In fact, the Prime Minister should intervene and ask the Speaker to work as a Speaker, as a constitutional custodian, and give the justice to the people and disqualify these 16 people who as per the law of the land, they are not any authority to be a legislator.
Okay, Mr. Kothari, you've heard both of them. Now, while on one hand you have the UBT camp saying that he is not behaving like a speaker, he should be impartial. The other camp believes that he is doing his job and it just requires more time. But when you look at the examples of other states, it has been very swift, some of them in a matter of days. So what really changes here legally? What are the aspects that need to be looked into? If you could give us a little bit more perspective into it.
Well, I'll try to give a very, very balanced viewpoint. First of all, Mr. Rahul Narvekar is a constitutional functionary. He's a speaker. Secondly, he's a lawyer himself. Thirdly, he has to explain the reasons behind the delay. If there is a delay, then he needs to give a reason as to why there was a delay. When Tushar Mehta speaks to him, he obviously will have to talk to him about it. And if at all the court asks him this question, he has to give the reason as to why there is a delay, because the perception is that there is a delay. Yes, 6,000 pages matter a lot. And obviously, he is the person to best answer that question as to why there is a delay, if there is a delay according to him. You see, these are discretionary powers of the speaker. He can always say that I took time to do this, I took time to do that. Now, how justifiable those are, that entirely depends upon the Supreme Court. Regardless of the fact that, okay, even assuming without admitting that he has deliberately delayed to prolong the functioning of this government, to ensure that this government continues for a long period of time, much to, should I say, the displeasure of the other side, that is Mr. Uddhav Thackeray's camp, then I believe that regardless of that fact, at the end of the day, what will matter is that whether the disqualification decision taken by him is in accordance with the law or is against the law. If the decision is according to the law, then there is no question, he doesn't have anything to fear about, whether he takes it in favor of the Shinde camp or whether he takes it in favor of the Uddhav Thackeray camp. If it is something which is not in favor of, in accordance with the law, because I'm sure whatever the result is going to be, assuming that he rules in favor of the Shinde camp, if for a moment I believe, that he is acting as per the BJP instructions, then obviously the other side has got a right to challenge, saying that these are the reasons, first of all, he delayed. Then secondly, these are the reasons why he should have done, disqualified the BJP, the Shinde faction, not the Uddhav Thackeray faction. So these are questions which are eventually going to go up to the Supreme Court any which ways, regardless of what he does. So the point is that at the end of the day, delay or no delay, you see what happens is many times, Deepak, that we as lawyers also take a long period of time at times to file certain things. And we have our own reasons. And, the first application that we do is for condonation of delay. And then the second part is that, okay, please accept this if you have condoned the delay. And normally in the ordinary course of things, the court condones the delay. Assuming
but Mr. Kothari, the question that really comes up here, because there's a delay, is whether politics is involved. Because, whether anyone likes it or not, speakers, governors come from certain political parties, and do they still have that affiliation, or, do they really soak themselves in the spirit of the constitutional post that they really sit in.
Exactly. So that's exactly the point that I prefaced that by saying that only that he will have to explain the delay. As I said, the point is that he will have to explain that delay, which has been alleged by the other side. And yes, perception issues do matter, especially when you belong to a particular party or when you have a political affiliation. You are always perceived from that angle. So obviously you have to act in a very judicious manner. I'm not saying that he's acted injudiciously. What I'm trying to say is that there could be a perception issue, that there is a reason why he has delayed. But I'm going a step ahead. I'm going to the fact that, okay, assuming that, okay, fine, I have delayed it deliberately. At the end of the day, what matters is what decision I take. The decision, whether the decision I take is something which is in accordance with the law, as per the prerogative of the speaker or not, and always the position of the speaker or of the governor. You saw that when the governor took the decision, he came down heavily, the Supreme Court came down heavily on him. So the point is that nobody is spared by the Supreme Court. So there is no question. The governor was presumed to have acted at the behest of the BJP, or he acted certain things. He did certain things which he was not supposed to do. That is what the judgment of the Supreme Court was. So if the Supreme Court comes to a conclusion, and why am I saying this? Because whatever the decision he takes, he is bound to reach the Supreme Court for final adjudication at the end of the day. So whatever decision he takes is bound to be decided by the Supreme Court, and these are always political views will always be.
Should I speak something?
Can I?
Yes, okay,
can I come in?
Please, come in. Please. I also want to add while you want to come in. I want to add here. While the education here happens, one important aspect here is you're looking at firstly the constituency that needs to be. The speaker needs to keep in mind that disqualification will also leave the constituency without a head, and it causes a lot of inconvenience to the voters who have hoped that they'll have a MLA who will serve them for about 5 years. So there's a lot of uncertainty that's created there. So do you think it's wrong for the speaker to take his own time here to ensure that his education is accurate? Because a lot of variables really come into picture.
Well, that is precisely the point that I'm trying to make, that he has to explain the delay. Why is he taking the time? And if 6,000 pages are not sufficient, sufficiently taking up his time and he has to arrive at a conclusion, I still believe that he will have to explain. That's why I'm keeping on emphasizing on the fact that you have to explain the delay, because there is a perception to the effect across the spectrum that there is a delay. So you have to explain that. And I'm going a step ahead. Deepak, please try to understand what I'm trying to say. Eventually, whether you act in accordance with the law or not is the final fundamental question. And you said that the constituency will be without a head, depends upon who he disqualifies. That is the point that I am trying to make. So you have to understand that the delay is a procedural aspect. The substantive aspect is that whether his disqualification is in accordance with the law or whether he has taken a biased attitude. That is the point. That is what is going to be subject to judicial review.
But in fact, my question was aimed towards Mr. Tiwari. So let him take that question.
Yes, please. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Swapnil, if the delay is for another 6-7 months, then there is no purpose of qualification and disqualification.
Absolutely.
Rahul Narvekar is a graduate from the legal fraternity and he knows the law and consequences. But I am surprised that Rahul Narvekar is now answering the question of the aggrieved parties also. In fact, UBT is the party who has suffered a lot. And delaying the decision, what we understand, that disqualification of 16 MLAs is being delayed. But now Rahul Narvekar is coming on the front and saying that there is no Supreme Court has not given me the deadline and all these things. These are unfortunate statements from the speaker itself. Speaker should stand to this integrity and he should be at least impartial to deliver the responsibility given by the Legislative House. We are ready to take his decision, whatever may be his decision, but the delay is not justified because our argument is that this is an unconstitutional government and Rahul Narvekar is allowing that government to continue. So this is the thing which is just the killing of a democracy, or I don't know what words we should use it. But Rahul Narvekar's previous experience. He's a professionally shifting the parties here and there. But it was not expected from the man like this, because his family background and all these things, he's very professional. But I think he's being pressurized by BJP High Command not to take a call. And whenever he will take a call, he will disqualify Eknath Shinde and 15 others. That is the final thing.
Okay, well, I'm sure Mr. Krishna Hegde differs to some of the statements that you had made. Mr. Hegde, I'll give you time now so that more importantly, you clear the air on a couple of aspects here. You did mention, of course, he's looking at all the aspects. He's from the legal arena himself. But, there is a lot of fingers that's going to be pointed because he belongs to a political party before taking over as a speaker. And now him keeping this in abeyance also helps that particular political party. And that's where, the finger of suspicion really comes in. And then for the Supreme Court to time and again, take up this matter and give deadlines, that doesn't seem good either.
Deepak, my learned friend and the spokesperson of the UBT, Tiwari ji, was constantly contradicting himself here. Firstly, he knows, because he's been in politics for so long, that there are separate powers for the judiciary, the executive and the legislature. And mostly they don't interfere in each one's powers unless it is required. Secondly, notwithstanding that, I don't want to get into that because that is not the topic. This is just, my response to Tiwari ji. Secondly, he said this government is unconstitutional. How can a government with 220 MLAs in the house backing it be unconstitutional? The opposition, that is the UBT, the Sharad Pawar faction and the Congress, do not even have 70 MLAs in the house. So they are in a minority, total minority in the house. They should introspect why over 100 MLAs crossed over from the Mahavikas Aghadi and joined this government in the past 1 year. That is the failure of the Mahavikas Aghadi government. But instead of looking and introspecting into themselves, they are now blaming the Honorable Speaker or the government or calling the government unconstitutional. I don't think that is fair. Basically, the mandate was given for the Shiv Sena BJP alliance in 2019, and it was Uddhav Thackeray who ditched the alliance and went and joined hands with the Congress, where his father clearly said, "Jo din mujhe Congress ke saath haath milana padega, main meri dukaan band kar dunga." Now, these are all unethical things which have happened, and now they are going to blame the speaker. How is it possible? We respect the views and directions of the Honorable Supreme Court. The Solicitor General will speak to the speaker. The speaker will give a time frame, and whatever decision he takes is acceptable to us. Now to say that he has jumped parties and all, I don't think, it happens in a particular person's political career that you have to jump. But to jump a political party also, you require guts. I must also say that this government is sound. We have over 220
But the entire concept of the anti-defection law was to, was to ensure that the jumping of political parties does not really affect the proceedings of the House, indirectly affect the people of the constituency and the state.
No. Deepak, it is that if 1/3 of the people, move out of the party is a different story. But your entire party has moved out here. The entire party is us. You are now a UBT faction. You don't have the symbol. You don't have the party name. So where are you a party? You are a faction. And therefore, I don't think anything
why is the
like
education not coming from the speaker? If it is that simple, it should have come in by now. Either ways. That is what Mr. Kothari as well was pointing out, that eventually there has to be a decision that the speaker has to make. So why allow for this, game to continue with, fingers being pointed, that this is again politics by the speaker? Why continue it?
No, I respect Kothari ji. He made his points very, crystal clear and with crisp. But I must also say that the Honorable Speaker is a very independent authority, and he will take his decision. And this decision will be, I think he said in the beginning of when these proceedings were taking place, it will be historic. There is also an angle where there are, disqualification petitions against 14 of the UBT members. But we are not talking about it. They had also defied the whip of the party at that time. But let's see. The Honorable, we are not here to influence anything like the UBT spokesperson.
Okay, I have very little time left. Mr. Tiwari wants to make a point. Quickly, Mr. Tiwari, just about 30 seconds.
No, initially only when our whip was served, only 16 people violated the anti-defection law. Then delay has given a time for a whole party to run away. Then NCP split also. So all undemocratic things has happened when our honorable speaker was there. So I humbly request the speaker to have a dignity and constitution up to the mark and take a decision and respect the guidelines of the Supreme Court of India. That's the only request I can do.
Okay. Well, let's of course hope that a decision soon is taken, and more importantly, of course, let's hope that the people of Maharashtra, the people of these constituencies where decisions have to be taken, they are not largely affected. I thank all our panelists for joining us today and trying to, somewhere make sense of all the drama that's been happening for several months now in Maharashtra. We are moving on to some